being intentional, and that you're investing what needs to get invested in, and that you're ideally keeping those fund balances, pretty stable at a level a target that you've set, such as the 25%.
So it truly is unique to the detail.
It really is.
Okay,
yes.
That's fine. Those were the questions I really had. I appreciate the presentation.
Sure.
Absolutely. Larry?
You mentioned several times economic development, and just as a broad category, where do you recommend that we search for that? What provides the most, the most bang for the buck? Do you have any recommendations for a city like us that you've counseled before?
That's a great question, Councilmember Fodovich. I know that you're going through an economic development strategic planning process right now with a number of consultants, and it's a pretty robust process. We haven't been actively involved in that. I know they're probably making some industry recommendations as well as some geographic recommendations. I think in general, we would say that I believe that making infrastructure investments that can be of utility to any number of types of economic development, whether that's residential or commercial, is really the core building block. And because from there you can, attract certain types of businesses to either provide a service that you don't currently have, or to diversify your employment base, or what have you. But if you don't have, up-to-date infrastructure, if you don't have a sense that this community is going forward in general, I think that's the biggest impediment to economic development. So I really can't say if there's a specific industry segment that would make sense for Gardner, but we find time and time again the most bang for the buck is in having really robust infrastructure, not overbuilding, but keeping up with demand and anticipating demand.
Where are we on the spectrum, though, as far as like retail tax base versus, commercial property tax?
I can't answer that at this time. Would be certainly happy to take a look at that. But
you're talking about the ratio?
Well, I'm just saying from cities that he also consults with.
You are still predominantly a residential community.
Well, it's about 80-20 now.
Yeah.
Well, it's always been 80-20.
We're 85-15.
Well, so 85
right.
last 2 years ago.
So you're moving towards more diversification. On the flip side, I work with a number of communities, both here and in Minnesota and elsewhere, that have a much higher industrial or commercial number, but it's concentrated in one or two manufacturers, and that's not a good thing either. So I feel like I'm not giving you a precise answer, sort of like with Councilmember Freeman, but again, I think it's really unique to this community kind of situation, and the fact that you're part of a larger metropolitan area too. If you were out in the middle of central Kansas, I would probably give you a different answer.
Well, let me ask you a more pointed question.
Okay.
We hear all the time residential doesn't pay for itself, but clearly there's cities around the country and even in Johnston County where their retail sales, not only from their residents, from other residents, do pay the cost. And do you think, is it possible to remain a bedroom community and increase our financial condition or improve our financial condition with retail as a strong component, as opposed to what is likely to come our way through the intermodal and commercial? And I'm not
I would say it's possible.
Mm-hmm.
I would say that diversification, though, when it's well planned out and strategic and doesn't overextend your resources, economic diversification is always a better option. If you could just wave a wand and decide, certainly you can be a healthy bedroom community. That's not a question. It's not like it's a black or white, but I would say that if you have an opportunity to be more diverse, as long as it keeps you on the right path financially, I would grab that opportunity.
Okay.
Chris?
Do you see any benefit in utilizing whatever we consider as excess reserves above our reserve threshold to pay down debt early versus letting it play out?
That's a really good question, Councilmember Harrison, and that is something that we do discuss with staff. I don't think we've discussed really recently any,
Everything callable.
right, any extraordinary redemptions. Right now, that's not part of the plan, in part because your rates are so good, there's more often refinancing opportunities, but certainly all of your bonds are callable, and you always have the opportunity to pay off debt. Again, it's sort of a balancing act. You know, if you have a future need for your cash, let's say in your wastewater fund, I certainly wouldn't recommend redeeming debt, paying it off with cash if it's going to mean you're going to have to issue a lot of debt that doesn't make sense to issue down the road. So it has to take place in a context. But if you have excess cash and it's not needing to be utilized within a specific time frame, and if you're only earning a little bit of money, and then certainly we have had clients that have said, let's absolutely deploy some of that cash and pay off debt. Higher interest rate debt obviously makes sense to redeem first.
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else, questions for Bruce?
All right.
Very good.
Thank you.
Bruce, thanks so much.
Thank you, Bruce.
Laura, you have anything else for us?
Do not.
We'll look you there.
All right. Anything else? Thank you very much. And please do feel free to call me or email if you have more questions.
No.
Great.
Really
Thank you.
appreciate your presentation this evening.
Right.
It was illuminating.
Great. Thanks.
Thanks so much. Laura, did you?
I don't, I'm just getting my stuff and I was gonna walk him out. And if you're
Okay.
going to recess, maybe you're not.
Yeah, well, now we can't start the council meeting until 7 o'clock, so we've got a little time to take a little recess. So don't stray too far.
Yeah. I don't think Jeff had a hot dog. So great. That is what I made.
Appreciate it. I think a few things. Good.